Hello, Mayor Diane Therrien will be making some remarks, followed by Warden Jones, and there'll be a Q&A opportunity after that. Mayor Therrien?
Thank you very much, Brendan, and good afternoon. After careful consideration of the increasing impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and the corresponding need for people to take necessary precautions, I am declaring a state of emergency for the City of Peterborough. This decision follows declarations made by the Province of Ontario for the entire province, as well as numerous other municipalities that have declared local states of emergency. The City of Peterborough Emergency Control Group was activated on Friday, March 13th, 2020, and has met numerous times since that date. This emergency declaration reinforces the urgency of the situation we are in. And by declaring an emergency, we are clearly stating as a community that our efforts are focused on the COVID-19 pandemic and the health and safety of everyone. For the safety of yourself and others, you need to stay home except for essential outings. Follow social distancing guidelines to slow the spread of illness, and if you are asked to self-isolate, you must do so. If you have returned from travel outside of Canada, you are, and everyone you live with is, required to self-isolate for 14 days. Refusing to do so is irresponsible and places our community at increased risk. Do your part to flatten the curve. This declaration of an emergency is available to municipalities under the Provincial Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. It may provide access to provincial funding for actions related to the emergency and relief should funding become available. Emergency services, including Peterborough Police Services, Peterborough Fire Services, and Peterborough City County paramedics continue to operate. The city continues to provide core services with some adjusted service levels. For questions about COVID-19, people are encouraged to look to health officials for up-to-date, reliable information. Peterborough Public Health provides information and links to provincial and federal resources at peterborough.publichealth.ca. So we've heard it before, but how to slow the spread of COVID-19. Avoid non-essential gatherings, stay at home as much as possible. Practice appropriate physical and social distancing, be at least 2 meters apart. Wash your hands frequently using soap for at least 15 to 20 seconds each time. Use hand sanitizer, cough or sneeze into your arm. If you have COVID-19 symptoms, self-monitor and self-isolate. You can use the online self-assessment tool at covid19.ontario.ca/self-assessment. If you are having difficulty breathing or are experiencing other severe symptoms, call 911 immediately. If you have traveled outside Canada recently, you must self-isolate for 14 days. Premier Ford's announcement earlier this afternoon regarding the closure of non-essential businesses hit home the point. This is a public health emergency, and we all need to do our part as individuals to slow the spread. We need to be responsible, proactive, and smart. Stop going out. If you have returned from outside of Canada, you need to self-isolate for 14 days. It doesn't matter if you feel fine. If you are back from Florida, from Mexico, from anywhere, you need to self-isolate for 14 days. This means no stops for gas, no stops at the pharmacy, no stops at the grocery store. If someone picks you up from the airport, they must also self-isolate for 14 days after being in a vehicle with you. If you do not self-isolate, you are putting other people's lives at risk. If you don't self-isolate, you are being irresponsible, selfish, reckless, and a danger to your family, your friends, your neighbors, and your community. If you know people who are not self-isolating, tell them. Shame them into doing it. It will save lives. Offer to get groceries for folks who are coming back from abroad. Make it simple and practical for them to self-isolate. This is how we come together as a community, as we always do in times of adversity. There are a lot of questions and a lot of rapidly changing information, but the one fact that remains consistent: staying away from others and self-isolation is the best way to slow the spread of COVID-19. No one, whether you have recently traveled or not, should be having friends and family over. Inviting a friend in for coffee is not self-isolating. hosting a family birthday party is not self-isolating. This can be a life or death situation, and we must treat it as such. This is a difficult time for our community, like all communities across the nation. Our small businesses are suffering, our part-time and precariously employed workers are facing uncertainty, our homeless and other vulnerable populations have their life circumstances made even more challenging. We at the city, with our partners, are working together to ensure that we come through this and are positioned in the best possible way for our new normal. I am in daily contact with our neighbors in the county, our provincial MP, and our provincial MPP and our federal MP. The senior levels of government understand how deeply this crisis is impacting our community, both in the city and the county, and they have committed to ongoing communication and have asked us to provide them with information and ideas about how their forthcoming funding and programs can be most effective in helping us get through this and recover. City staff will likely be making a recommendation about deferring the March tax penalty, and Council will be considering a variety of ways that we might be able to ease the burden on our residents and our taxpayers during this unprecedented situation. If you have ideas about how the city can help, please feel free to reach out to us with your suggestions. Myself and your councillors are here for you. Thank you to all the folks who have been practicing social and physical distancing, those who have been volunteering to get groceries, medication, and other essentials for their neighbors, to the kids and adults who have been using sidewalk chalk to put uplifting messages on the sidewalks to keep the light coming in these dark times. Thank you to the local businesses who pulled together like we always do to support one another and help how they can. Thanks to Black's Distillery and Persian Empire Distillery for reaching out and producing much needed hand sanitizer. Thank you to our first responders, our healthcare workers, those who go to work despite the challenges and uncertainty of this time because they are dedicated to saving lives and helping their community. Thank you to the media for your constant coverage and assistance in getting key messages out to folks who need it. We will continue to update you every day as the situation continues to unfold. Be safe, be well, and stay the heck home. Thank you. And now we will turn it over to Warden Jones.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Diane, and I certainly agree with every word that you have said. About 15 minutes ago, we and I at the County of Peterborough officially declared a state of emergency as well. And we, of course, try to work hand in hand with the City of Peterborough because, indeed, we are all in this together. Now, drastic situations call for drastic measures, and we are pushing the button just as hard as we can to get people to finally understand how serious this issue is. I'm hearing more anecdotal information every day about people who just don't get it. People in cottage country, for example, are coming up from Toronto, returning from Florida, and they're out and about walking together with people, and this has got to stop. People have to understand that we have to get ugly over this issue, and we are going to do just that. I commend the work the city have done. I commend the work that our Premier Doug Ford and the leadership that he's shown, as well as Prime Minister Trudeau. We all have to be very vocal on this. So Peterborough County, as of just a few moments ago, have also declared an official state of emergency, and there will be more details of that to come. We have to stand united, we have to be strong, and we will get through this. Whether you're in the county or the city, please understand how serious this is. Thank you.
I do. This is Tricia from Global News. Would you be able to explain exactly what this means for Peterborough and anything that will be changing or anything in that kind of sort?
Well, as a municipality, we take a lot of our direction on these from the province as well. And so earlier today, when Premier Ford ordered non-essential businesses to close, this is, a tool that we have to try to convey the severity of the situation. Because again, we've been hearing too many stories about folks who are not taking it seriously, who continue to gather in groups, who go out after getting back from abroad. And so we really need to convey that this is an emergency and people need to treat it as such. There is also, as was mentioned, the potential for some funding. Again, that's, we're not worried about that right at this point necessarily. We're primarily concerned with getting out the message that this is an emergency. People are sick and people will continue to get sick and people will die if folks are not abiding by the protocols that we are telling them to do, that the medical officers are telling us we need to be doing in order to save lives and prevent folks from falling ill.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm having trouble hearing her, and I cannot grasp what implications a municipal state of emergency have. Like, I understand how the province's state of emergency has and like what measures have been taken following that, but I don't understand what measures will be added now.
Yeah, I think Joelle, that a lot of this is to put us in a position for the eventuality of the various provincial programs that might become available, whether they be financial or anything like that. And it also puts us in a position that should we have to use volunteers, for example, they very theoretically could be covered under WSIB. But all this can only happen if a state of emergency is in place. And I think a lot of it is symbolic for us to tell everyone how serious this is.